morning. This is Robin Eschler, and I'm here today with Dr. Nina Meyerhof for another episode of Women of Passion and Legacy. This is a show that's dedicated to spotlight women at various ages in life who recognize their drive to have a certain purpose. And they took one step at a time, but they took action to make a difference, whether it's locally, nationally, or internationally. These women, like you, have had their own fears and their own life's challenges, but they pushed through to accomplish it one day at a time and to progress toward their dream. They have become women of passion and legacy. Dr. Nina Meyerhof has, in her own words, simply allowed life to guide her one day at a time. And today she's enjoyed the recognition in 2023 of a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. Welcome, Nina. I'm so honored to have you. Thank you for joining me.
It's my pleasure and wonderful to be with you, Robin, because we have a history together also.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's
Uh-huh.
been a while, and my goodness, what a great trip it's been too. I'm curious about the Presidential Award. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I was really surprised by it. And I must say that for all the people knowing, all of a sudden I'm getting lots of awards. It must come with aging process, because when I was working like crazy, nobody gave me the awards, but I was just focused on doing what I needed to do. One of the young people who grew up and became a leader in his own right now and runs his own organization, Jagels. It's a leadership group, applied for it for me at the White House, and they give out that distinction after they review your files and whatnot. And that's how I got it. And instead of being there at the White House, Sammy received the honor and presented it to me at his annual meeting, which was lovely because, for me, I've been working all my life, over 50 years, doing this sort of swimming upstream kind of work, I call it, because nobody sees it, nobody knows about it, and yet you're working very hard to build tributaries that make a difference for a better world. Yeah. And he was a young man that came to me in Ghana when he was, maybe 16, 17. Then went with me to Thailand and to Japan and Nepal, and ended up also with the Native Americans, the Mohawk, sitting in powwow for a week. So, in gratitude, he's made sure that I get honored.
Well, but not only that, Nina, I mean we were just before the show, we were talking about how long we've known each other and other people who entered your life early in your path that have maintained that connection because you're a source of inspiration, and you are, well, for lack of a better word, kind of the grandmother of the children's movement around the world. So to
Well,
that end,
I met the Dalai Lama in 1990, I guess it was. I was taking a group of young people to the United Nations. It was an important day because it was the World Summit for Children, and something didn't sit right with me. Oh, it should be the World Summit of Children, because it's not appropriate to always represent their voices. And so I gathered young people together, and we spent a week looking at what is it that they would see are the important issues, etc. And they wrote a declaration for peace. It was a there it is. It's a beautiful piece. And then we went to see His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and I had the first Earth Run torch. Yeah. And I brought it to him, and I asked him to bless it. And he blessed it, and he gave it back to me, and he said, "You are responsible for the children of the earth." And I went, "Oh my God, now I got a new mission." Oh my. but I took it seriously because he doesn't say things off the cuff, you have to, and the deeper you take it, the deeper meaning it has. Yeah. So I went all around the world with this torch, and kids would hold the torch and experience the power of knowing who you are inside and what you would like to see in the world. And they would all participate in this, and it went around. It was only after 9/11 and how TSA and all these airports checked luggage that I gave up doing that piece. But it was a wonderful piece that linked young people all throughout the world together.
Yeah. So Children of the Earth was one of the first organizations, but before even that, you had a camp. Tell us a little bit about how that got started.
Well, the way it started is I put an ad in the ski areas, and I said, anybody interested in a camp this summer has animals. And I said to myself, if I get more than 12 to 15 people, I'll start a camp. And so I started a camp, and that's the way it went. And I did it, and it grew and grew, and it became a notable place because it was very different. It was based on philosophical thinking. It was not based on, oh, I want to give them a nice experience. Let's make little pocketbooks and paint little pictures. It was really to find out, who are you? What is your purpose in life? Well, how do you live as community? What does it mean to have democratic living skills? You cook your own food. Do you eat meat? Do you drink raw milk? Do you, and all these questions that we dealt with as a community. And so that was how I started the work. I guess I was always interested in young people being the voice of the future, no longer imitating the adults that came before them, but really thinking, who are they? What is their purpose? And not to feel disenfranchised from the world, because that's what happens to you. That's why you get all the sadness and mental problems and etc., because you feel disenfranchised. You have no role linking you to what's happening on the planet, and yet they're the most important people on the planet for the future. And so the Dalai Lama recognized, and he said to me, children are the most important resource the planet has. I said, oh, thank you, and went on my way.
That's the last time I visit you. I get those kinds of directions.
It's
So,
aye, sir.
aye. That's right.
I also
So,
was with the Lama once, who I was in Thailand, and they wanted to put Mahayana Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism together. And so they said, do you know anybody of Mahayana Buddhism? And I said, oh, I once met this Lama in at the UN. They said, go find him. They put me on a plane. I said, I know he's in Nepal. They put me on a plane to Nepal. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. I got in a taxi cab and rode around for 2 days till I found him. And then I told him, you have to come back with me to Thailand. They paid for my ticket for you to come back. And he said, sorry, you see, I have a big conference in front of me. I said, I can't help it. You have to. I promise them I get you.
oh my gosh.
And so he said, no. And then the next day he came down and he said, I go with you. And so then he said, you are the mother of Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism together, because they became like brothers from the inner planes. It was miraculous how that exploded into beauty and a wonderful relationship. And I ended up in Italy for a while because he had a big center there. And I'm looking at your beautiful pictures there. And I'm with Nana in Ghana. I met Nana in Japan. And there was a little black lady, and she had her socks rolled down, and she was wiggling around, and she yelled at Gorbachev and the others on stage, and she said, how can you call this meeting value change if there's not one woman on your stage? coming for, I said, I got to know this woman. And so she and I had 50 years of roaming the world together, of me going to Ghana and trying to set up a center there for her, and et cetera, her coming to my place. So yeah, she's
Yeah.
chief, queen mother, and head of 17 towns, and was also involved at the UN and was the head of refugee women in Ghana and Liberia and Nigeria, etc.
What keeps coming into my mind is the bravery that it takes to some degree. I mean, to just like you did, just get on a plane and go and do what you're being directed to do. It's a matter of truly letting go. I mean, you can't put it in any stronger way, really.
Yeah.
You just let go and let God,
Show me. One of the times I was in Ghana, the neighboring town wanted to honor me and have me become a chief in their village. And they wanted to give me a house, which was a small abode made out of hay, etc. But they sent me down into a plot of land where the memories of the elders are, and where people and they left me there, and I thought, I don't know what's going to happen to me here. Oh my God, maybe they'll put water in and boil me. I don't know. It's a stupid comment, but it was like, all I knew about what I was doing is what I saw in movies. I want to say tomorrow morning I get up at 3 to go to Kenya. And I'm a little uneasy because I don't know where I'm going. And I'm going to Humbe, and they're going to honor me with naming a school after me. But it's trusting that it'll all work out. I want to say another one where trust was right. The war in Ukraine broke out, and I called 2 people I know, and I said, I need to go. Do you want to go with me? And it was before they had organized at the borders. We went there. I didn't know where I was going, and we didn't know where we were going to sleep. We didn't know where the border was. We didn't know what we were going to do when we got to the border, any of it. But it worked out so beautifully. We met so many mothers and children, and that inspired me and my friends to raise money to refit a house so that they would have apartments at the place where I'm connected, where I co-founded a project called One Humanity Institute. And there are the children at the border, and we gave them teddy bears, brought 25, 50 teddy bears from Vermont Teddy Bear. But then we went and collected more. In the end, we had over 2,000 teddy bears to give children. And then I spoke to Rotary, and Rotary took 1,000 bears to the orphanages in Poland, and 30 orphanage in Ukraine. 30 orphanages for Christmas got the bears, So things evolve all the time. You just really got to trust that when the call is there, that you respond. And so I've been very fortunate. Like, I haven't worked and financially for quite a long time, but somehow I'm still here and I have a good life. Yeah. Somebody sent me money for the Kenya piece. You never know. You
Yeah.
never know.
But again, it's a matter of listening too. It's a matter of staying open and listening. I once met um, a teacher from India down in San Diego, and one of the things that one of his followers told me is that you never know where you're going to be the next day, because he has no plans. He just listens, and wherever he's directed to go, that's where he goes. And I think that's what you're saying, is that you have to stay open to those messages, to those clues, and, and then you have to take action on them. You don't just ignore them and say, oh, this is a coincidence, or isn't that nice? You take action. You actually
Right.
put this one step in front of the other, and you take action.
I mean, so
I
for
do
me,
want to talk a little.
I'm
Pardon?
sorry. I was going to say, for me, with the goal and the deep meditation of serving humanity and hopefully making my life relevant to all of life somehow. I mean, so that's the goal. And in that, what I hear is what moves me.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. You know, to that end, I think this would be a good place to chat a little bit about the Teddy Bear Project. I'm going to show a video that you've done recently, and some people may be surprised that you're collecting teddy bears for both Palestinian children, and for the Israeli children as well. So I want to go ahead and add this and have you just enjoy watching this for a minute, and then we can talk about the teddy bear project.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Nina Meyerhof, and I'm here to tell you about our teddy bear project, Kids Caring for Kids. We've been in disaster areas all around the world to help comfort displaced children, children affected by natural disasters to active war zones. What I've learned about the bears, because in 9/11 I went on TV to speak to the public about children and the children needing something to love, and a woman came with a busload of bears, and I saw how the children would hold those bears to feel comforted, connected, and loved.
Once again, the need for the Teddy Bear Project has never been more important. As war rages, innocent children are the ones needing our support the most. Displaced, orphaned, traumatized. Are they Israeli, Palestinian, Ukrainian? What they all have in common, they're children and they're suffering the ravages of war. Something as simple as a teddy bear can bring comfort and happiness to the innocent casualties of war, the children. Here's how you can help.
Please scan the QR code or go to onehumanity.institute/teddybears.
I want to thank all of you for listening and caring and thinking about helping us. We want to help the children of the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So I think this is an important place to draw attention to our audience for just a minute, and say that if you are out there and you are in awe of Nina, which is an easy thing to be, um, this is an action item that you can take. The fact that you're watching this right now, and the fact that you stuck with it this long to see this video about teddy bears. Nina, how would they go about getting involved? By going to the website, onehumanity.institute. We have some links at the end of the show, but I'd like to hear your directions for people that
Yeah,
want to.
and what you do is go onehumanity.institute//teddy bears, and then we have the information there. But it is about you, wherever you stand, taking one step towards the work you believe in. So it's more than do you give your money or not. It's significant as you give your heart, and your heart tells you to give money, so it's follow your heart and see where you go and what it is you will really want to do in life. Like I say, this is my last phase of life. So what do I want that to look like? What do I want in my life that I didn't do before? I mean, so these are questions that, if you take the time, will give you the sense of self-relevance and importance. It's not more important than another person. It's important to you to be important to you. And that's really it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a matter of diving in a little bit and getting to know what's important to you, where your passion is. And
Yeah.
then again, listening and following the direction that you get, because the direction does come when you stay open. It's just a matter of of being open, listening, and then taking that step.
And not being so afraid. I mean, I must say, like in the early years, I was fearful also. I always kept one foot in my job and one foot outside until I felt like I was a boat going, the legs were separating and going in two opposite directions. And I had to make a decision, you know? So I jumped ship, so to speak, to go in one direction. Now, all of you don't have to do that, but take time to do what you think is meaningful. It's worth the time, you know, all the volunteering. I volunteered for everything. And then I became important in the UN. Why? Because I was always there, ready to go, ready to work, and to do what I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little different than if you had a job description and you had to follow that.
Well, and again, back in the beginning, you were a teacher, right, for special needs. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
That's correct. I started as a teacher assistant at $4 an hour. In the good old days, yeah. And then I
Yeah.
worked up to being the director of 10 schools, you know. But so I swam to the middle and then rose up. That was sort of my way of, you know, I'm reflecting back and I see that's the way I work, you know, whatever field it's in. Yeah.
So for Children of the Earth, we're going to shift gears here again a little bit. You had a trip to Auschwitz. Is that correct? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Well, it was really something. I went to Auschwitz. It's my legacy. It's my point of origin. I really realized that. So I never took it too seriously that my parents were Holocaust survivors, that I was Jewish. I mean, I just sort of took that as in stride. But being there, I understood the horrors that they experienced, and also that was the impetus for my own life, you know, that somehow that seed of caring. And I found my family's names on the book of the dead, you know, and there were about 20 names. And I don't know if I said this before or not, but my mother always told me my grandmother was executed on the day I was born, which left her torn to love me, love the day I was born, or to hate that she'd left her mother behind and she'd been murdered. It's a terrible mental choice that you have. And, you know, forgiving and forgetting are two different things. And it's a lifetime's process to really clear out the memories, the DNA, and of the horrors that exist. And, you know, as these are horrors for me, there are horrors for you everywhere, you know, like when I go to Africa and I see the slave castles where they hung up the people and, you know, on chains and things like that. Terrible, terrible. So anyway, for the Western society, Auschwitz has been kept perfect in its historical memory. And so you cannot walk through it without experiencing and thinking about, what does it mean to go into a gas chamber and thrown into the fire alive, you know, oodles of people, or that you see the river and you know all the ashes of people were dumped there, and then you see the swans floating on top of the water now, because life goes on. Yeah, life goes on. So it's a lot of realizations there at Auschwitz, and we acquired one building as a gift from somebody in Israel whose relatives had given it to him that were survivors of the Holocaust. And the grandparents had been murdered there. And then another person gave us money for another building as a loan. So we had two buildings, one of which we refitted for the Ukrainians, so it was functional. The one given from Israel is non-functional. And then the third one, the co-founder, Domin Kochavar, put money down to. So it makes a full campus. And the idea is to make it an innovative campus, which actually gives young people the ability to think that they can begin a new society, a world which works for everyone.
Right. Right. So, um, again, I think that from that point of recognition and what you said just a moment ago really hit me. It's one thing to forgive, it's another thing to forget. And I think recognizing that and diving into understanding it at a deeper level is important because there are things that happen to us in our lives that we'll never forget. We just
All right.
simply never will forget what happened.
I
And the more
just read a quote by Jung. Somebody has sent a letter to me, and it said to bring consciousness into the dark. And I thought that's an interesting concept. Yeah.
yeah, very, very, very much so.
Mhm.
So, okay, so we've we've talked a little bit about Auschwitz, about One Humanity Institute. We've talked about your origin as far as being a special needs teacher, and that really was where your whole passion for children started expressing itself. And then from there, the Children of the Earth, and now going to Kenya after many world travels. So tell me, where do you go from here? Do you have any idea?
Not particularly. I'm somewhat intrigued with AI and AI for the good and how we can use it for higher consciousness. Like that, if we look at the internet, was the ability to become a global mind. Can we use AI to be the global heart? How AI is interesting because it doesn't carry trauma and it doesn't carry the past. And so it allows complete openness to what is. And so, how we program it to have love and compassion and ethics and values, and then become a model that can show human beings what it's about versus the other way around, I mean, it would work. So anyway, I'm working with AI and Sophia the robot, and I'm fascinated by that. So a little of that, and then yeah, wherever life takes me.
You recently had well, you always have on International Day of Peace. You're always very active. And the last few years, my understanding is you've been doing that out of Auschwitz, a lot of programs there. But you recently had an an international online conference between the youth of Auschwitz area. What is the name of that town again? I've forgotten.
Oswiecim.
Auschwitz. And then you've got Kenya that you came into it, and then some of the youth from Chicago, and where
Oh,
else?
so let me tell you, because it's really to bring children that have experienced the impact of violence and war. So the Ukrainian kids came to our place also, so that we brought them over. So for them, it was like being on another universe to get out of the war. Yeah. So we had Ukrainian kids and Polish kids, kids from Rwanda who had suffered so much, kids from the inner city of Chicago because they knew violence. For them to hear about real war zones, was really like eye opener. Yeah. And then there were several other, but that's the whole thing, for each to learn from each other and yet to understand that they all carry the pain. Yeah. And that's important. There's a photo here. There are two photos here that you're showing that I wanted to say. The one with the peace pole, we did a trauma releasing program for Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Auschwitz together. We pulled them together. How do you release so that you come into unity? So that's one. And then the shoes, I was down in New York City just by accident. Ha ha ha. And those are the hostages' shoes from Israel. I ended up at the UN, and they were setting them up, and it was very emotional, very emotional.
My goodness.
Mm.
Yeah, so bringing and then you tie in for me, my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour, but you tie in the AI with that power of bringing kids together. And they're not just kids, they're young adults and adults, and bringing that whole cadre of people together to work on developing a peaceful I think is an extremely powerful concept. I currently work with AI in my business a lot, and it it's interesting because a lot of the people that work with AI on a regular basis remind you to be polite to it,
Uh, uh,
so that when you get information from it, to say thank you. And
uh,
I think that's all part of what you're saying. I mean, they think of it in a science fiction perspective, but I think what you're saying is so much more important, that every interaction that we have with artificial intelligence programs it even that much more. So it's important that we're polite. It's
yeah,
important that we show gratitude. It's important that we give to
right,
it so that it develops that kind of heart, that kind of intelligence, that heartfelt intelligence. And
right,
I think the children, these groups of children that you are getting
mm,
together are, I mean, my goodness, they're the ones who will be living AI
yeah,
when they're our age.
yeah,
AI is a technology. I mean, just look in the last 30 years as to how technology has changed. AI will be light years away from what
right.
it is today in just 3 to 5 years.
Hmm.
So it's important that we do that now, right
I
now,
agree.
in my opinion. And I am so pleased that you brought that up. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Well, I think we've just about covered it, Nina. Is there
You're getting
anything
good
more?
at it. Oh, look at there, all these wonderful things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you've got you've had more awards through your lifetime than I can really keep up with, and well deserved. Well deserved.
Well, thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
and so much is important as far as the children. And again, I want to emphasize to the people that are watching this, if you're inspired by this, take action. And there's different ways that you can do that. Here's some links. You can go to onehumanity.institute to get involved in the Teddy Bear Project and a number of different other activities that are going on there in the Auschwitz and Polish areas. You can go directly to that bit.ly link to get involved with Teddy Bears for Peace. And you can go to my website, Blue Sky Lifestyle, to start working with me. I'm a coach, and I call myself a passion coach because it's my job to help women connect with that passion for life and start and really women as a whole, I think, have a very unique drive. Well, obviously very different from men's drive, although we've more so tried to fit into shoehorn ourselves into to how men are successful. I think now we are entering an era, and there's a story that I won't take time to tell unless you contact me at Blue Sky Lifestyle. But how there's an origin story that ends with, in the first century of the third millennia, which is where we are today, the first century of the third millennia is when women will start coming into their, not just their own, but it's that innate drive to make the world a better place is going to really take hold. And so it is extremely important for us as women and for the feminine side of men, because there is a balance, um, to find that inner, to connect with that inner passion, and to determine what it is that you really are driven to accomplish, whether it's just in your home or your neighborhood or your city or your nation or the world. There's things that you can do all along the way. So be inspired by Nina. It's easy to do. Nina, thank you again so much for joining me. And I am going to give you one last chance. This is your last chance now. Is there anything to add?
Love life, be happy, get over yourself, and do something. Yeah, I don't know.
Wonderful, wonderful advice.
Good.
Okay, so
Thank
we're
you
going
very
to
much
end the
for
show at this
inviting me.
point, but I want to ask everybody to please like this episode, and if you enjoyed it, subscribe to Women of Passion and Legacy, because there's more coming. You can find us, and there will be links in the description for Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of Nina's contact information. And we invite you to be a woman of passion and to leave that memory with the people that you love of that inspiration like Nina has done, and become a legacy in your own family. So thank you again, Nina. I appreciate your time. Have a wonderful trip to Kenya. Can't wait to hear what happens when you get back.
Okay. My pleasure.
All right. Thanks again.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.